Welcome to the Crypto Compliance Podcast by Gatenox.
Paweł Kuskowski, welcome in Crypto Compliance by Gatenox, where compliance experts and practitioners are talking about current market events and general compliance aspects. Today I have two special guests, compliance experts from Switzerland, Katerina Anthony, the founder of Smart Compliance and Chief Compliance and Risk Officers for Keytech AG, and Maxim Kohn, who is the compliance advisor and spent 13 years in compliance in traditional finance and crypto sector. Both Katerina and Maxim are long connected with Swiss Crypto Compliance Valley Association at the board level, the organization which I believe connects over 20,000 entities. Katerina has served over 20 years in various roles within the exchanges, fintech, and commodity trading. Based out of London, she was head of the Moscow Stock Exchange office in the UK for the global business operation, cross-border compliance, and clients onboarding. Also served as head of representation for Eastern Europe for the commodity valuation firm S&P Global Platts. Before founding her company, she worked for 2.5 years at GWP in crypto DLT sector compliance. Maxim has 13 plus years of compliance in the financial industry. He started his career in traditional Swiss banks such as UBS and Julius Baer, where he had a front-to-back experience of over 7 years covering derivative trading, back mid-office compliance and operation risk control. Since early 2017, Maxim worked in the blockchain-related fintech company, now Zapo Bank, as a money laundering reporting officer, and later for crypto finance as deputy chief risk officer and deputy head of compliance, helping them to receive and maintain their regulatory license. Since 2020, he has been working as a compliance consultant, advising multiple fintech and blockchain companies, including Lyrium, Cooper, and Valor, and on risk and compliance topics. Currently, Maxim is working with Substance Network, a scalable layer 1 storage solution for Web3 and Metaverse. Hi, Katerina. Hey, Maxim. I'm very pleased today to welcome you in Crypto Compliance Podcast. There's a lot to talk, a lot of events happening on the market internationally, but our focus will be on Switzerland. And I think, this is also very topical because currently Switzerland seems to be the center for rails, banks focusing on crypto. And I prepared some example of the banks in Switzerland and Liechtenstein, which I think, both could be considered as one jurisdiction from let's say this perspective. I know that many people in Liechtenstein would oppose this, but many seems like this. So Seba Bank, Maerki Baumann, Arab Bank Switzerland, Bank Freak, Incor Bank, Luzern, Cantal Bank, Schweizer Cantal Bank, Zuger, Swissquote. I'm big fan of Swissquote. Signum Bank, Vontobel, Banque Cantonelle, my German
Neuchâtel.
Neuchâtel, exactly. Did I miss anyone?
Well, there are, in theory, a few more banks. I think you mentioned the important ones, with Seba Bank and Signum Bank being crypto-native banks, which makes them special, but also Incor Bank and Maerki Baumann, that are really well connected in the crypto industry and basically provide the fiat rails for the crypto industry in Switzerland. But then there are more banks in Switzerland that are really helping the crypto industry to establish or working on their own projects. So banks like Luzerner or Zuger Cantonal Bank, which are regional state-owned bank, they are also looking into the crypto projects and try to help bank crypto assets, but they're a little bit hesitant in comparison to the previously mentioned banks. And
so the one which are crypto native is Seba Bank, right? And which one is the second one?
Signum.
Signum, correct. Yes, exactly.
And they got their license in 2019. I remember it. I thought it was September. And FINMA decided to give 2 licenses at the same time, just maybe to compare how they will develop their business. And they initially were founded as a crypto banks. Not like so. All the rest you name it's a traditional banks, private banks in Switzerland, and as Maxim already said, they are not all really providing crypto services. Some of them will just maybe accept client who has relations or nexus to crypto, but we will only take the fiat money, but maybe before this money were crypto. Or some will produce like certificates, actively managed certificates, which link to Bitcoin, for example. So you can actually buy Bitcoin in the bank as a banking product. But it's still, very early to say, yes, in Switzerland, you can easily open bank account with crypto. It's still a lot of restrictions. It's very long process. It's very expensive from compliance point of view, especially if you are really crypto genius and you do a lot of trading. So to trace all these banks, they need really to have a special tools, education, have a right staff. And it's still very early stage in Switzerland.
But I think considering what happened in the US, right? So we have Silvergate and the other one, which is, what's the name?
Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah, but the Signature and the Silvergate was the one which are effectively rails into crypto, right? And they are gone at the moment. And like from what I see, many are asking, okay, where we can go, especially for crypto companies, right? So I think this is again, and that's something which is very interesting, because I know Swiss, let's say, banking for some time. I spent 5 years, for full disclosures, 5 years in UBS. So I know quite well this sector, and I was always fascinated about private banking in Switzerland, right? So I think right now it's the whole banking segment is rediscovered because of crypto a little bit. I know that it's not much, but it's still, I think, the most active, let's say, country in terms of crypto. So if you want to start your business, come to Switzerland, right? Crypto business, come to Switzerland. You get excellent lawyers, excellent compliance people, and then in banking, if you do this right, which means that paying enough to compliance people to set everything up, and then you're good to go. Now I'm joking, but I think that's the.
But you forgot also you can have a delegation. So what is good about Swiss regulation? You can delegate a lot of things, and if you're a startup, for example, you don't need to have everyone just a full-time team. So, for example, second line of defense compliance function you can outsource. And this is what many companies will use in Switzerland, especially if you are SRO regulated. Then you can actually have external company, professional company helping you to do the compliance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so can you explain this, because there's a lot of so different licensing, SRO, right? And by the way, I think it's important to mention that there is very active in Zug, which was the center of Ethereum launch, right? Zug is still very active ecosystem, and there is a Zug Cryptocurrency Association, which I believe you are both in the management team, correct?
Crypto Valley Association.
Valley Association.
Yeah, currency is also part of it.
Okay.
Yes, it's a Crypto Valley Association, and we both of us are board members, and we really help the ecosystem as an association. We first what we do, we educate the market and we support the market with a lot of events. We explain to young people, to professionals. We support businesses, promote them, and we have as in association members not only Swiss based. We have a lot of international companies coming to us, exchanges, banks, and we have traditional banks as well joining us. It's a big community. Over 10,000, let's say, people together are involved in the activities of Crypto Valley Association.
10,000?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that's a huge number.
Those are active members. If you consider like previous members or like less active, it's an even larger number.
Wow.
And as Ekaterina mentioned, it's not only Switzerland. The story started in Switzerland in Zug with the Ethereum Foundation. In roughly 2013, and around 2015, Bitcoin Swiss and Xapo came to Switzerland, to Zug, and established here their entities, and those were the first two companies that were regulated in Switzerland. But around that time, with the Ethereum Foundation and other real blockchain projects, not necessarily fintech focused, many companies came to Switzerland, to Zug, and this association was created to create a platform where those companies can collaborate and exchange knowledge. And it grew from Zug to Zurich, to Geneva, to Lausanne, but also outside of Switzerland. So there are special local communities in North America and South America. We're working on one in Africa and
Dubai.
Dubai. We have a connection to Asia, but there is another organization called IDAXA, where Katerina is also a board member. And we create a network of people who are directly or indirectly involved in the community around blockchain projects or blockchain fintech type of companies. So the power here is really to give a voice to the people and the industry and create a network.
And of course, just to add that apart from working with the private sector, we work a lot with regulator, and we provide our feedback, market feedback, when, let's say, new law come in force. So FATF produce new consultations on the amendments to the paper related to crypto industry. We provide our feedback, and we did a lot of recommendation in the past. We also publish a lot on website for education purpose, and we have working groups which help industry also to understand the legal aspects of crypto. Like we have a legal working group, compliance working group, and all members are welcome to send the professionals to these groups and represent and also educate. So for example, today at 2:00 we have a compliance group call where you will have a representative from banks, from legal companies, from exchanges, brokers, and it's all, let's say, volunteer work. People come there to share the knowledge, but also to support each other.
And in terms of what needs to be done in order to be licensed, and what type of licenses you have to operate in Switzerland?
Max, maybe I start and you continue.
Okay.
So, you first need to understand, of course, what is your business model. Normally, you start with idea. I want to do, robo-advising, trading, or I would like to exchange money. So you need to analyze if you are subject to money laundering law. It's first of all. And this is the first point. If you really have to onboard the clients and to provide KYC, you will start with SRO. It's a minimum license you will get. Like, it's even not a license, it's a membership, where the one
so SRO stands for?
It's a self-regulated organization.
Yeah.
And we have...
to add here, the FINMA is the Financial Markets Authority of Switzerland. It regulates banks, insurances, brokers, and like the big layer of companies that have to be regulated. But the FINMA also regulates and supervises those SROs. And the SROs are basically a membership-based smaller level of regulation. So you have lower entry barriers, but the FINMA dictates the rules to the SRO, which are then passed on to a wider number of smaller companies that also fall into the regulatory requirements.
Yeah, where if not go too much in details, each SRO has its own regulation based on the FINMA, AMLA Act and Ordinance. But sometimes you have some special rules, and SRO has the right to invent their own rules. So if you are part of SRO, you have to follow the regulation of SRO, and once a year you will get into the audit where they will check if you do everything right. And you will have to pay membership and, of course, attend a yearly training. This is the key aspects of
being. And membership in Crypto Valley Association or? SRO, who is giving you? Because you're talking about membership. Membership in what?
A membership in an SRO basically gives you a regulatory status, because you cannot just become a member of an SRO, but in order to call yourself regulated and follow certain levels of anti-money laundering requirements, you need to be member of such a self-regulatory organization.
So, just to give you example, for example, in UK, you will have to have a money transfer license. In Switzerland, you can just be a member of SRO, and if you don't place deposits, just do transactions, and you withdraw them within 60 days, it's just SRO regulation.
So it's a little bit like lighter. It's a little bit like sandbox, right? Is this sandbox, or can you be fully fledged? I don't know, big exchange, but still being just SRO member.
From how I understand regulation, Sandbox, you don't need necessarily be SRO member. With Sandbox, you just have limit of 1 million, where you can have you can go up to this threshold. Then you have to go to be to regulator and ask for the membership, or even other type of license need to be required from FINMA. Because if you do investment, for example, vehicle or something, then it's already different regulation come into force here. But you can with Sandbox, you just can start your business up to 1 million. With SRO, you can do unlimited number of transactions and number of clients. You just have to follow the AML rules and make sure that you're not part of any other law in Switzerland. For example, you have to if you do portfolio management advising, then of course it's not SRO anymore. It's already FINMA regulated portfolio manager license.
Yeah, and you mentioned an exchange. So in Switzerland, you also have a separate license, a DLT license, which applies very much for exchanges. So if you want to build a new Coinbase Kraken type of model, you would rather go for DLT, which would give you the possibility also launch and issue your own products. This is a special one. Ekaterina mentioned the Sandbox environment up to 1 million. This is, clients' money that is on your account. So like a banking license light, you have the possibility to take your clients' money and do with it whatever banks are doing with the money. While with all SRO memberships, you cannot take clients' money and do with it something. You are just executing an FX transaction, a payment transaction, or any other type of financial related service, where the client is in full charge. The money belongs to the client. You're just doing a service. So this is a separation from the banking industry. But there are countless possibilities to open or operate as a financial intermediary with a self-regulatory membership status. And examples are brokers, trading companies,
money transfer. And what is important, you have to trace the 60 days. Till 2017, I think it was only 7 days. And FINMA extended this to 60 days. So you have 60 days to take money from the client and to send them on behalf of the client. But as I said, you have to trace it and to present it, that you really not keep them more than 60 days. For example, Bitcoin Swiss, they operate under SRO license. If you know, this is one of the biggest problems.
Bitcoin Swiss is that's interesting, because I think that's the one of the biggest operator, right? Or if the biggest.
Yes, for the businesses we provide here in Switzerland, we use SRO structure. Yeah.
Okay, so we have Bitcoin Swiss and the other company, which I know is Swissborg, and they would also have, do you know SRO only, or?
Yes.
So who's got actually DLT?
SIX Digital Exchange was applying for it, but
right.
I'm not even sure if it is already completed. So this one is still, being played with, but not yet really completely up and running. And
But I just say here also, DLT is not always like a crypto exchange, because DLT is for the security exchange. Yeah, because we have also element of the security law there. So for just exchange, you need organized trading facility, or it's what more maybe responds to the needs of the standard Coinbase or Binance type of exchanges. With DLT, you rather to look at the security trading, because DLT part of the DLT
security in terms of like stocks, options, this type of instrument, right?
Yes.
Maybe rather tokens that could be classified as assets.
Security tokens, right?
Now you entered very interesting topic now. Let's move on to the qualification. Listen, I remember still 2016, 17, 18, the big ICO and classification. I think at that time, I think it was 2018 when Switzerland came up with this, I think like 10 pages of classification. What tokens, what are the classification of the tokens, right?
Yes, we had that 2000.
Is it still remaining in force in terms of this, or did you have some further discussion?
Absolutely. They did some amendments because when you remember Facebook tried to create new tokens here, Libra, yes. They did some amendments because they apply for the payment license, and also they want to have the stable coin. So it was amendment which referred to explanation what stable coin mean. And since then, yes, we have this classification which FINMA use for if you do business in Switzerland, you have to be classified according to this guidance, and it can be hybrid tokens, not only let's say payment or utility or shares like security tokens. It can be hybrid, and this is important to identify because it's also depending on the stage of the project. They can get from one type of tokens to another type of tokens. Become from the just payment token become investment instrument. So you have to be very careful and do it in advance and understand how you have to, which type of law will be applicable to your project.
So basically, in its very beginning, you have three versions of the token. You have a utility token, which just functions as a utility. You have a token to open a door or to show something is happening. You have a payment token, so in theory, something similar to Bitcoin. So you can pay with it or transfer some sort of value. And you have the asset token, and that is a wide scope. And for the asset token, you would require some DLT license or banking license level of regulation. For the payment token, you are required to be falling under the anti-money laundering regulations. So you need to have compliance in place, KYC, onboarding procedures, monitoring, and so on. For utility token, in theory, you don't need anything because it's just a utility. However, it also here depends very much how you launch your token. What are you doing with it? Are you launching your token and tell everyone that it's going to go to the moon? Then it will be probably not only utility, and then it's recommended to also do AML, KYC procedures and controls.
Yeah, I know, but some of the projects are kind of like, okay, we launch a protocol and we have tokens and they are worth tens or hundreds of millions. But at the same time, we don't want to be classified as this token to be payment token, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's such a tricky situation, right? When you try to kind of navigate through this and see, okay, what's doable, what's not. Why, like, would you recommend if you have new project and someone is launching token, and I can agree to some point that it's not going to be payment token, but our security token. We all know that it's going to be. It's tricky to be. It's tricky to say that. No, I mean, no one is expecting this to go to the moon, right? Everyone wants this to be like top 100, right, or top 10, and then you want to use it to pay for services or give grants or anything like this. So even these two things, everyone is like they want to do this. We have security, and we have payments. Right? How we can go about this? I mean, is this the way to? And I'm not asking for legal advice, but what's the typical conversation you would have with this type of projects when they and I'm sure 100% that you have this type of conversation. Well, when we ask, like what we need to set up, we want this, but we don't want to do KYC, AML, the usual.
What is really important is, as Ekaterina mentioned, to have a clear understanding of what you are planning to do. And with a proper project plan, you ideally submit a request to FINMA and ask for a token classification of FINMA. Because, well, what startup founders have in their mind and what FINMA sees may be a different thing. And the best, safest way is to first ask FINMA, are we a utility token, or are we a payment, or are we an asset, or something in between? And that way you have some clarity. To be a clear, pure utility token, it's difficult. And then again, if you use your token to raise funds, you are moving in other categories. So it's the safest way to actually have your confirmation from FINMA. They will not require you to do any other things. And you can just launch your very technical blockchain project and use your token as a utility, full stop. In all other projects where it's not so clear, where it's some sort of payment, some sort of equity elements, maybe even some additional features that remind of derivatives or something like that, things get complicated. And then you really need to present clear definition of what you're up to, and hope that FINMA will understand it soon and provide you a proper classification. That would be the safest way to go.
I just maybe add that, you can maybe even start with a legal opinion, because normally FINMA can take some time. And of course, FINMA will charge you as well for time spent. So maybe you start with a legal opinion that you really understand before you apply to FINMA, that you're sure about what you do is the right concept. Because if you publish on your website something and it's finally will be discovered that it's not the right approach, you can get in trouble later. So you have to do everything right from the scratch. And FINMA, as I said, it can take some time, and you really need to make sure that you know you will do, because if it's security tokens, this is its investor need to be protected. You need to remember it's prospectus, and up to 500, for example, individuals you would like to attract, it can be one rules. Then you have really to register this prospectus, and this is a different story. So as we already mentioned, please be careful before you start announcing stuff and attracting clients or investors. Make sure that you're 100% right.
And the good thing about FINMA is you can ask them. There is a hotline on the FINMA website where you can, as a startup founder, just call. And I think you have like 15 or 20 minutes free consultation. It will not give you a legal opinion for free, but it will give you a direction where to go, where you most likely end up with. And it really helps. So in comparison to other jurisdictions, you can talk to the regulator and they will tell you. So
you can even meet them. If you write them a letter or email and explain that you have a project, you would like to introduce it to them, they will find a time and meet you in Bern. So it's also amazing. They're quite open for discussions. And we also, on the Crypto Valley level, we have once a year roundtable with market participants where we discuss the new trends or questions of the industry with them. So they're quite proactive.
That's so unusual, right? For the regulators to be so open to meet and actually discuss and be accommodating to the industry. And I think it's so helpful at the same time. I know that many people would say, oh, we have this letter from FINMA, and we actually, many projects would be very, very careful right now, especially right now. I think it used to be different, in the old days, like, oh, I just got this paper and I can do whatever I want, I don't care, right? Right now it's completely different. We're very, very careful not to step outside this what's written in the letter. So, okay, so if we say that we have projects coming to you and we know that, okay, they are creating some sort of payment token, right? What are the typical, let's say, compliance requirements for this type of project?
Okay, so you need to establish the proper 3 lines of defense and compliance. Yeah, you have front.
And you mentioned, sorry to stop you. You mentioned that second line of defense can be effectively provided by professional services companies like yourself. It doesn't have to be in-house.
Yes, right? Because I give you an example. You're a small company, you're just starting, you have 2-3 people. And if you build your 3 lines of defense, you can't have a front guy to do front onboarding and then to do the final KYC, right? You need to separate this function. So you can onboard a company who provide compliance, and they will come into your office and help you check everything. Of course, you need to establish internal control system where all processes are explained and everyone know what they do, how you collect the dossiers of the clients, how you document it, how you check it. You need to do the annual renews, maybe more often. And then the third line of defense, it's internal audit, where you have a person who is not involved in the second line of defense, like a decision maker and in front, and he can check if all the processes are right. And of course, when you have external audit, it will be a 4th line of defense. It's not defense, it's already control of SRO, for example, where they will come and check how all this structure performed during the year and if there are any questions to the structure.
So effectively, you need to have some sort of substance in terms of compliance in-house, but in terms of like more difficult cases or anything which is specific, requires local knowledge and expertise, you can get help from outside, and this is all right.
Yeah, So
yes,
in a very
I start. You said substance. This is the key. You should have not like a nominee office somewhere.
Yeah.
You have a proper office with proper address, and a regulator will check it. They don't like when you have just post box. They will not accept it.
Yeah, and you need to have like what, one person at least in compliance.
You need to have one local director, as a director
Okay.
that can act on behalf of the company in Switzerland. And if you are going for like a financial type of model, SRO or FINMA, you need to have your compliance officer in Switzerland. So, and that compliance officer can theoretically be outsourced. So you have one local director in Switzerland that can also be in theory outsourced, plus your compliance officer can be outsourced, but they have to be in Switzerland. And those people need to be able to actually decide and see what's going on in the company. So it's an important function, but in order to apply for a regulatory license, those two people need to be in Switzerland, and you need to have processes.
Director and compliance officer. So it's a good place. Do you have enough compliance people in Switzerland?
No,
but we have very good ones.
We have the best. Yeah. Yes. And with the people, you still need to have good control system. You need to establish all the procedures. So if you are SRO regulated, minimum they will request you to provide IML policy and how you identify the risk, how you onboard clients, what type of the procedures you have. So you have to have provided to the regulator before you have any membership or license, and then they will interview you.
Okay. And so in terms of, I always ask this question, how do you see the difference between policies, procedures, operating procedures, all this stuff, because it's, I spent so many years in compliance, and it's still a tricky question, I think, in many situations. So Maxim, what's your view on this? Like policy versus procedure versus controls, how do you describe this framework?
Yeah. AML policy in Switzerland or outside, they're theoretically all look the same. Some are a little bit longer, some are a little bit shorter, but they all contain the same elements. So it is just like a structure of things you have to do. In the procedures or process description, this is where you really describe the reality of what your company is doing, what tools, which people, how often, how fast. This is key. And I think
policy is something when you describe that I need to do KYC for individuals, right? I need to take documents, or is already in procedure?
You need to describe, AML, KYC, your requirements. You need to identify your clients.
That's policy.
That's the policy. And in your procedure, you can say, I am using Gatenox to identify my clients, and this is my process. This is what data we get. This is what data, or how we store the data. This is how we process it, who reviews it, how many people have to review it, and so on. This is a process. And I think what is very important these days, and especially in like a fintech startup modern world, there are so many great providers for processes, and they're modular. So you can really build a process taking the best elements of different software and combine them into something that is very efficient and great and matches your AML policy and requirements. And you can get all of that set up quite fast and get going soon. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, or you don't need to build everything in-house, because this is just very slow, very expensive, and maybe not even good.
And I know, Maxim, that you've done this type of thing. I know that, looking at you right now, it's like, your stuff on this, so, how do you, let's talk a little bit about this, how you set up, processes using different tools, in one combined process? What you're looking for when you are doing this, and is actually technical knowledge required by compliance people at the moment?
Maybe I just add here, if we also talk about regulation, that in Switzerland you can actually automate most of the processes, and legally, like we have the guidance on the video and online identification. So legally, it's allowed for you to do video identification of your clients, and it makes life much easier because you can have less paperwork. You can automate and make the processes digital. So you will start from the choosing the partners to do this, because you can't do it yourself. You have to have authorized companies. And second, as already Max mentioned, you have to find the right tools. Like you can have well-known tools or less known. We don't want to promote here the names, of course, but it's also a matter of budget. And often you can find the newcomers to the market who can be really creative and advanced in how you can manage sanction lists, transaction screening, all related to the news search. But this can be much faster and cheaper, and you can integrate it via API, so you can automate. Not just have a manual checks all the time. And there are lots of free tools on the market where you can also use, which also fine if you document everything right. So these are like you need to choose what is your setup. Or do you have a fully automated way? Do you have a half manual, or you just do it manually? How many clients you have? What the risk of the clients? And then you make this setup agreements, you test it, and you start working with this tools.
And building such a process it really depends on the size and the volumes of your company. In as Ekaterina mentioned, there is this video and online identification circular by FINMA, and this is the basic beginning of how do I do KYC in a company. And it says you can identify your clients in person, so meet them and look at their passports directly in person, which is not very common these days. Second, you collect passports via physical mail, but those have to be authorized or notarized copies of passports, which is difficult because you need, as a normal person, I need to go to a notary, get my proper stamp on my passport. That costs a lot of money, my time. Then I have to send it via mail, and then someone then has to collect physical copies, original notarized copies. That was the process for most companies just until a few years ago. And luckily now there is the video identification and online identification. Video identification would be something like a real communication via Zoom call or similar, where the client has to show the ID into the camera and show it very closely that the compliance officer on the other side can see security features of the document. You need to wobble the document so that you see reflections and holograms. The compliance officer will have to read the machine readable zone, so those 3 little lines on the bottom of the document, and verify them, because there are some checksums, and those checksums they are unique. You can use a third-party tool for that, or you can do it yourselves with a Zoom and a free machine readable zone checker. But as Ekaterina said, you need to document it very properly. You need to have a clear guidance on how you do your identification, what questions you ask, how do you record it, how do you check the features. Or, you buy everything from a provider and they do it for you. They have the people and the technology, everything is done. The best version would be the last element, online identification. This is where you don't have a live video call with your clients, but ask your client to use their mobile phone or webcam on the computer to take a picture of your of the passport or identity card, and then all those security features are automatically verified, which is great because it saves time on the user side and on the company side. You don't need one-to-one interaction, and it's a scalable process. But in Switzerland, it comes with a little downside. It only works if you combine it with the bank transfer. Some businesses in crypto don't even plan to do a bank transfer. So it's not really applicable there. That's why you see so many video identification calls in Switzerland. But there is a new
I think
version.
You need to do biometric passport screen. It's a new, which was amended by FINMA. Yeah?
To mention here, so what you can do to avoid the bank license is you can use your NFC smartphone to touch your identity card, and then the biometric embedded data of your passport is read by the app. So this is future. Haven't seen that in real life yet out there, but that would save the bank transfer. That would save even more time and would make the user experience so great because, well, the data is digitally transferred to the compliance analyst, and things are getting so much efficient in a way. But we are in early days, and if you say, well, how do you build those processes? You take a look at different providers, see what is out there, how much it costs, what are the volumes that you expect, and what are the price packages of different sizes of company or company volumes that they offer, and take the best possible thing for your company. And then you can combine other additional checks and elements to it. And for companies of global proportions, they're great tools to even manage the flows of your different tools, combine them all into one workflow with different elements that are manageable from like data science perspective. And this is where things really get exciting, where you can manage the conversion rate of your website, including the compliance checks. And so you can start with a marketing banner to your website, to compliance processes and compliance approval all into one, and you can start manage your clients. This is what makes a modern company and really gives them the possibility to scale.
By the way, talking about data, we should not forget that in Switzerland, we keep all data in a Swiss server. And if you do your business, please make sure that you have a contract with a local provider. It can be somebody like big Microsoft or someone more, simple. But SRO will also check if you do digital documentation, that you have all your data in Switzerland, and that anytime they can have access to this data, and you need to keep them for 10 years minimum.
Anytime, you mean they can access this without request, or?
No, of course, they will tell you, we need this data. You immediately need to bring them to... so you can have the paper format when the auditor come to you, and you can show them all your folders, in a big room with a lot of shelves. Or you have everything online, but you can find it immediately for them. So they feel like you have order and it's in Switzerland.
Okay, and so SRO would be doing audit, not FINMA.
No, and they have delegated organizations. It can be some auditors who work with SRO. It can be internal person who come to check you, or it can be the person who work as external auditor with the contract. And then they come and nicely talk to you, check everything. It can take one up to maybe a week, depending on your business size. And then they provide a report, which you have to sign, and they send it to SRO, where they explain how did you perform for a whole year.
Okay, and how did you? Obviously, you did, but how the audit looks like? Like, would you have like people coming, or is it nice, or is it like, oh, we're gonna find you and we're gonna punish you?
Very personal, Some auditors, they will be really just not talking to you. They just want to see all your papers. Some will be nice. They just want to cooperate and just see everything and understand your business model. It's lottery, you don't know who
All
you
right.
auditor. It's like a human factor. But normally they will check all your records. They will check all your clients. They check your procedures. They check your documents, KYC for the members of the team as well. So financials. So it should be, you need to show them everything. They need to look from the kitchen, to the company, how you're doing. And then if they feel like all good, they will make a good report. If they see some things which can be improved, they also explain it. Or if something really bad, they also will have to describe it and report. Yeah.
And how critical is customer protection in Switzerland in terms of compliance? Do you have rules applicable? Is this part of the registration, membership? What's the current status with this?
You are referring to customer protections in terms of like MiFID II type of customer
MiFID
protection.
II, yes, like misleading communication, misleading marketing, all this stuff.
Yeah. So it's all very important, and there is a similar law to MiFID in Switzerland, which very, very much is in line with MiFID. But the SRO is not yet at the level of that requirements. We are not talking about financial products. Once you become a financial product, so if you are a security token, all of it is applicable. Then you need to be very careful. If you are a payment token, you are under the anti-money laundering requirements, and there is some, you need to honest to your client. It's not you cannot be a fraud.
It's to the moon, right? It's honest statement. It's gonna go. We're gonna pump it to the moon.
No, there is no such thing. You're doing a payment. You will send 100 Swiss francs to your uncle. It will arrive. Full stop. There is no to the moon expectations there. And the other element, everything that is going into the security tokens, there you have customer protections and prospectus and all those requirements.
Maybe, Max, I will just give example. We have SRO regulation. We have like a high level regulation like bank or security dealer, where you really get into the many different things, and Banking Act. But we have also in between, we have a fintech license, for example, which is light bank. And here you already have all these requirements because you will be under Banking Act in Switzerland. But it's the setup is a bit different. So you don't need to have 10 millions in your investment for capitalization of the company. And you don't have the same requirements like if you really develop the big proper bank. Like if we, in the case of SEBA or Signum, they were applying for banking license. But for example, we have companies like Yapil, for example. They are fintech regulated, but it's a light bank. Here, there are still a lot of procedures, but it's, let's say, it's a bit easier to get.
So it's like similar to the PSD2 license, right? Payment license.
You can issue IBANs. You can work with central bank. With SNB, you can have all connections like a normal bank. You can do SWIFT, SEPA transactions on behalf of your clients, but you're not allowed to keep the deposits. So you restricted to pay. Actually, you can keep money of clients, but you're not allowed to pay interest on these deposits.
Yeah. So basically, you cannot take deposits.
Yeah, and you have
keep money, but you cannot.
100 million. You're not allowed to overcome this threshold. Otherwise, you have to apply for proper banking license. And this is quite a special license because it gives the possibility to issue IBANs. Can work as a proper bank.
And who do you have examples like this? SEBA?
No, Yapil. It's
Yapil.
Yes.
Okay.
We have several, but I think the most active is Yapil.
Okay, I think the BCB group is also in Switzerland, correct?
I think DCB Group owns a sub-entity in Switzerland that has also the fintech license, but I don't remind the name of it.
There are several of them, and I at the moment part of the project which also waiting for fintech license. So I know everything about it. Yes.
So what's gonna be next phase? I mean, we didn't touch NFTs, So I mean, do you see NFT being next frontier for crypto in Switzerland, or it's quiet? And how would you come? I think it's a tricky one, right? NFTs are completely tricky. Because you can think of this as, well, it's the same as shoes, which you sell on, your e-commerce or eBay, right? Or you can treat them as art, or you can treat them as security. What's the, let's say, what's your view on this point, and what's the discussion which you have in the Valley Association?
Well, NFTs can be different things. So there are the collectibles, the generated art that is unique, CryptoPunks, Bored Ape, and other like famous NFT pictures with some features or without features. But then there is much more to the technology. So the non-fungibility of a token makes it transferable and makes it unique. So in Switzerland, there are already existing projects that are using the corporate register for real estate as NFTs and transfer the rights as such. There are companies issuing ownership licenses or just licenses of participation as NFTs, which, well, are verifiable, at least not necessarily super transferable, but there are different projects that are way beyond colorful pictures. And here it really depends what is the purpose of it. So there is much more to the non-fungibility and transferability of an NFT than just showing on Twitter that you own a picture of a monkey.
And do you see this being active market in Switzerland, becoming active market, or it's more into Dubai or Singapore or Cayman? Like
it is an active market. So the NFT craze of, let's say, 2021 is over. It's become way more quiet. But what became more quiet? The colorful pictures, the thousands of copies of animals, not only monkeys, but other pictures, so which created a saturation of a market. So when you can say, okay, the Bored Ape is a rare NFT, but given there are like thousands of things that look like Bored Ape, it makes even the Bored Ape less special because it's, well, not so much different from the other animals that you can collect. So all of this became saturated and dropped in value. The problem with NFTs is, well, given the non-fungibility, they're also less liquid. So while you can convert one, let's say, not Bitcoin, but I don't know, a Ripple token, you can always sell it. There will be a market for the Ripple as a whole, or as long there is a market, you can sell it. Your specific picture of a penguin or a goat may be worthless because no one wants your specific picture. And the market really dries out very fast if the demand is gone. While those crypto winter times, when things are a little bit quiet, are great times for new projects to build on good technology. So right now, in the background, people are building on NFT technology projects that are, well, providing some actual benefits with different concepts. So there is more. Do you have
any big brands who are doing NFTs in Switzerland? I mean, that will be kind of obvious space, right, to do. I don't know, like.
No big brands yet.
No big brands yet.
The big brands are in the US. And
I think it's also, if we come back to our IML topic, it's quite also question how we should look at the NFT in the future, because there are some questions to the platforms as well. And there is a way to money launder using NFT
it's a big market for this,
Absolutely. It's still not maybe critical mass that regulator really restrict without AML. They observe it at the moment, but we need to be ready that if from the regulatory point of view, it will be regulated. It's definitely at least AML KYC function added to all these platforms. And then you still have I
don't understand, when it's all about kind of positioning. So if you have money, where is the money coming from? But if you are buying and selling your own NFT, suddenly you can sell, your own NFT for 2 million and say, listen, I sold this NFT for 2 million. It's so easy to blunder, for Christ's sake. Actually, I think, what I see in the world is we're gonna have DEXs, DAOs regulated sooner than NFT markets, which I think is crazy. I think it's just unbelievable at the moment, So,
and we need to have the solution where people feel protection, data protection,
exactly,
but they still can feel they actually clean. Yeah, so maybe it should be external providers of KYC tools, which will identify and give the guarantee this is the good user of the system, and the system itself will not keep any data.
That's exactly what we are doing in Gatenox. That's exactly the future which we share.
This is what the market really needs, because we have this, misconception, or we have a disagreement between we need to stay anonymous, but we also need to make sure they have security and data protection. How to bring these three elements together?
I think it's more into UX, UI. This we've done, when I was in CoinFin, we've done so much research about exchanges at that time, big fight about, applying KYC to exchanges or not. And the volumes and, client acquisition path for the one which are not, which had not KYC, right? By the way, many of them are gone, but at that time, they're growing so much faster. And I think, it wasn't about these guys didn't want to have regulations. It's more about, UX, UI. So how quickly it is to get the client into my system to spend money, because nobody wants to go through this, difficult procedure, right? So I think that's something which is the biggest problem in the crypto industry. By the same token, I think we as industry, we are in very good place to solve this problem and don't repeat the problem of traditional finance, which basically is crazy, right? I was talking to a weekend with some of the banks in London, bankers in London, and they said it takes us 6-8 weeks as a minimum to onboard corporate clients. It's crazy. So
need to be changed. And I think when we talk at the beginning about Credit Suisse, or we talk about the situation in US, yes, the industry needs the new technologies. And when we talk about crypto, it's about not only about crypto as instruments, it's about technologies. We need to see different banks. We need to have open banking. We need to have more exchange, API data, use artificial intelligence that we can actually analyze fast and give the clients comfort. Because every time to provide all this paperwork, it's also annoying for client. It's very expensive for the organization. And with the technologies we have to really go into next step with the services.
And one thing, in regards to NFTs, there is already some sort of control in place. The type of I buy and sell my own NFT from myself in order to pretend that I made a big profit or a big loss for tax purposes. This type of activity is, theoretically possible, but the good NFT marketplaces are monitoring the behavior and the transactional activity of their users without KYC. So they don't need a passport. They have a wallet address. It's unique. It shows all the information. So the data is there. And we please, dear criminals, don't forget, on the blockchain, everything is visible forever. So maybe if they cannot verify the fraudulent activity today, in a few months or few years, they will be able to review that transaction and see that it was a fraudulent transaction. And that type of technology is possible to apply in many different concepts. So I think the future will be rather adding more advanced, newer technology and controls to prevent money laundering, instead of focusing on always collecting the copy of a paper document issued by a government.
I completely agree. I think that's also, very good point to close our conversation. So, Katerina, Maxim, thank you very much for your time.
Crypto Compliance, brought to you by Gatenox.